I think No Stone Left Alone is a new generational Canadian way to remember. Both my parents served in World War II. My mother with the Canadian Women's Army Corps, and my father was military police, and he served over in France. So after the war, we've settled here in Edmonton, and remembrance was always a big part of our family. And then my mother passed away when I was 12 years old. And we all had a few minutes with her before they took her to the hospital. And she asked me that day, she said, "Maureen, don't cry when I pass, but please, please don't forget me on Armistice Day." And that November I took my poppy, and that was the first time I brought it out to her headstone as a promise to her. And I've been doing it ever since. And I made it part of my world, I guess, by doing that every year personally, whether I was with my boyfriend in high school, then when I met my husband, then when we had our children. It's just something I've always done, always made them come with me. And then years into it, I would bring the kids from where they rest up here to the cenotaph. And it was my youngest daughter. And she said one day, "Mom, how come they all don't get one?" And I thought to myself, well, I'm going to think about that and see if I can do that. I recently was in the battlefields for the first time in my life. And I don't want to get too emotional about it, but I've done this No Stone Left Alone for 13 years. And going over to Europe and seeing the decimation of what happened there, we can't see that because we just get to skip along because we've never had that conflict, because the guys went over and helped and then protected us here. And we've been protected ever since. Everybody wants to be remembered. When all of us pass, everybody wants to be remembered. But I think these guys need to be remembered more because they changed the world. So many volunteers across this country are really tapping in to the younger generation who was very removed not only from the history of what we've experienced here in Canada, but they really didn't have anything tangible to do on Remembrance Day. They might have stood at a cenotaph with their parents or grandparents, but they had no engagement. So my mission became, I want the kids to actually do something, to see it like I see it. When I come out here every year, I see it very differently. Last year we completed 236 ceremonies in every province in the country. We are in France, we are in the Netherlands, we'll be in Arlington this year. I think it just shows that when it's right to do something, everybody feels it and everybody wants to be part of it. It all takes work and it all takes money, unfortunately. And we really do need the support now, and I'm confident now that this program has a stamp on Canada that I don't need to shy away from asking anymore. I want to ask, please help us if you can by giving so the program can grow, volunteering at one of your local cemeteries and local events that are going on, and research some of these people and help us remember them all, because there's a lot of headstones to remember here in Canada, and we really do want to leave no stone left alone.
Good morning, everyone, joining us in person and online. My name is Jalen Nye. I am the Honorary Colonel of 408 Tactical Helicopter Squadron with the Royal Canadian Air Force and patron of Edmonton Garrison MFRC, and I am honored to be your MC today. Welcome to the No Stone Left Alone live-streamed national ceremony from Beechmount Cemetery in Edmonton, Alberta. This is the 14th year of this commemoration at Beechmount, and we are happy to welcome many students and guests in person this year, as well as students, teachers, and supporters watching right across the country. Now, just a moment ago, we saw some footage, past and present, of the Royal Canadian Air Force. This year marks the centennial of the RCAF, an important milestone for Canada. 100 years ago, the Canadian Air Force was granted the royal title, becoming the Royal Canadian Air Force. During World War II, between 1939 and 1945, the RCAF enlisted 232,000 men and 17,000 women and operated 86 squadrons. By the end of the war, the RCAF was the fourth largest Allied Air Force. And of course, it came at a cost. More than 17,000 Canadian airmen died during the war. And since then, the RCAF has served Canadians proudly around the world and right here at home. Earlier this morning in Poland, students from Szkoła 58 in Krakow held a No Stone Left Alone ceremony at Rakowicki Cemetery, honoring 484 World War II war dead. Those include 15 Canadian veterans, 7 of whom were members of the RCAF. We would like to take a moment to thank our friends in Poland for keeping the memory of these Canadians alive. I'd now like to introduce Lieutenant Navy Keith Diacu, who will deliver the land acknowledgement.
Tanse oki abueste tanche. As a proud Métis in uniform, I carry with me my ancestors from the Red River settlement and their stories of land stewardship, strength, and resilience. It is my honor today to welcome you on the land where we work, play, call home, because it's the bedrock of our everything. Long before the buildings and streets rose up around us, this land, Amisquachiwaskagan, Beaver Hills House, known today as Edmonton, was alive with the laughter and wisdom of many First Peoples. Here, the Anishinaabe, the Dene, Nakota Sioux, Nehewak, Nisitapi gathered in harmony, nurturing a deep connection to the river valley and the sacred ground of Rossdale. It was a place of gathering, hunting, and home fire teachings from the ancestors that were passed down through the generations. It is also important to recognize the ancestral lands of the Enoch Cree Nation, the Papas Chase Cree Nation, and the brand new Fort Edmonton district within the Métis Nation of Alberta. If you live in Alberta or elsewhere in Canada that signed treaty, we are all treaty people, bound by the promises made long ago, promises of mutual respect, stewardship, and friendship. And in the spirit of reconciliation, I invite you to seek out your First Nations, Inuit, Métis neighbors, share each other's cultures, listen to their stories, and become an ally. Embrace the rich tapestries of cultures that enrich our communities, but also the land that nourishes us all. To all my relations, may the land be with you. As we gather here today, let us take a moment to remember our shared ancestors and the war heroes, including our Indigenous veterans, laid to rest across Canada. May their sacrifices be honored, their stories remembered, and may they rest in peace. Miigwech, Ihai, Ishnish, Marci.
Thank you, Lieutenant Diacu. Next, Christina Hollingsworth will perform O Canada in Cree. Christina will be followed by the Annunciation Catholic Elementary School Choir led by Aaron Stock, singing the anthem in French and English.
All right. Attention!
Kakanetak kikino kitaskino sakahitoin kichawasemasak kimamichenawak maminchenawak kichikawitaino Otochen nitisko kasidos katinan no toinan kana widita kakanitak nitaskinan oma kakanitak nitaskinan
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all laws command. Catambase porte il se porte l'acqua. Ton histoire et ton pays, des plus brillants d'espoir. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Party, shoulder, arms! Stand at, eight. Stand at, easy. Stand easy.
The purpose of today's event is twofold. To begin with, it is being live streamed to students across Canada to pass on the importance of our military history and help them understand why it's important to remember. Secondly, and this is the one that really makes the connection between young people and those who have served, students in attendance will lay poppies on the headstones of more than 4,000 men and women who served in Canada's armed forces and are buried here in the Field of Honor at Beechmount. The act is repeated in nearly 300 locations across Canada and internationally as the No Stone Left Alone Foundation works to honor all Canadians who have served. From British Columbia to Newfoundland and beyond our borders, it's believed well over 100,000 poppies will be laid by November 11th, with 11,000 students participating. These achievements, ladies and gentlemen, are driven by the collaboration of a small but mighty team here in Edmonton, facilitating the critical support of an army of community organizers and volunteers across the country and beyond who give from their hearts with their time and effort. No Stone Left Alone would like to take this time to sincerely thank those who contribute, whether it's through participation or with their financial support. The mission simply could not exist without you. If you would like to get involved and help keep this mission going, you can follow the QR code on your screen to our website to learn more. Her Excellency, the Right Honourable Mary Simon, Governor-General of Canada, is No Stone Left Alone's vice-regal patron. She has sent us a letter for today's ceremony, which I would like to read for you. A poppy is a lasting symbol of remembrance. When Maureen Bianchini Purvis first laid a poppy on her mother's headstone to recognize that woman's service during the Second World War, she launched an initiative that would bring together youth from across Canada and around the world to ensure no stone is left alone. Last year, more than 11,000 young people placed poppies on veterans' headstones in 9 countries. No Stone Left Alone connects youth with stories of our veterans, with their history of dedication and sacrifice. In this way, they are preserving our past for future generations. This year marks both the centennial of the Royal Canadian Air Force and the 80th anniversary of D-Day. As you stand vigil today at Beechmount Cemetery and at the burial sites of veterans here and abroad, I thank you for your commitment to this cause and to the memory of those who gave so much for what we hold dear, lest we forget. Signed, Mary Simon. We are privileged today to be joined by Her Honor, the Right Honorable Samalakani, the Lieutenant Governor of Alberta. Your Honor, I'd like to invite you to the podium to say a few words.
As His Majesty the King's representative in Alberta and as a settler, I acknowledge all First Peoples who have called this place home for thousands of years and who welcomed us here to make our own lives. May we always dwell together on these lands with respect, understanding, and a sincere commitment to walking the journey of reconciliation, and now I say reconciliation. Thank you so much, Jaylene. Honorable Premier, all elected officials, dignitaries, platform party guests, and distinguished guests all. Hello and good morning. Isn't it a beautiful Alberta morning to be out here today? I'd like to say a welcome to everyone who has joined us here today in person and those who are watching the live stream. But I'd like to welcome especially the students and teachers here in Edmonton and across Canada who are joining us for this special ceremony of remembrance and to show respect to our military. As we gather today to remember our fallen heroes in uniform, some of whom were heartbreakingly young and who made sacrifices for us to enjoy the quality of life we are all blessed to have, I would like all of us, especially our young students who are placing poppies today, to remember that they gave up their lives, their hopes, aspirations, and futures for us. I would like you all to think about how you and other young people just like you enjoy the lives you lead thanks to our women and men in uniform. You are free to learn and to create whatever future you imagine for yourselves, regardless of your culture, gender, ethnicity, or religion. You are free to live in peace. Our women and men in uniform have bravely stepped forward to serve throughout history to create a better world for future generations, to uphold human rights so that each and every Canadian is able to enjoy the blessings of peace and freedom. We can keep their legacy alive by doing whatever we can to make sure our schools, neighborhoods, and communities are welcoming, peaceful, and caring places for everyone. We can also show our gratitude to those who serve every single day by taking part in ceremonies of remembrance like this one, and by ensuring that every day we make the most of the gifts they fought for through our own thoughtful citizenship. Today, we all stand side by side to honor their deeds and cherish their memories. As His Majesty the King's representative in Alberta, I offer my most heartfelt gratitude to all our Canadians in uniform for their tireless and selfless service. I would like to recognize everyone at the No Stone Left Alone Foundation for your amazing work year after year to keep this important program going strong, and thank you to the teachers among us who make sure our students have the knowledge, the encouragement, and the confidence they need to achieve their fullest potential. I want to also say a big, heartfelt thank you to the founder of the No Stone Left Alone initiative, Maureen Bianchini Purvis, and her husband, Randall Purvis, for doing so much to keep alive the memories of those who gave their all for us. Maureen, as a result of the promise you made to your late mother, a veteran herself, and later a conversation with your daughter, you have created a global movement to honor those who have served, and we are so very proud of you. Thank you to all who helped organize today's event, and to all of you, each and every one of you, for being here today. Finally, to those among us who are grieving a fallen hero, may they rest in peace, and may you find comfort in knowing that their proud legacies will continue to live on through wonderful programs like this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Before our next speaker, I want to acknowledge some of the people who you see here every year. They are also among those who we are honoring today. They are the Color Party. They carry the flags for this ceremony, and they are all veterans of our armed forces. There are 8 members in our Color Party today from Kingsway Legion Branch 175. Between them, these veterans have served in every element of the Canadian Armed Forces in Canada and overseas. 3 of them, and you can identify them by their blue wedge cap, served in the Royal Canadian Air Force, which, as mentioned, is celebrating its centennial this year. We thank them all for their service. We now welcome Alberta Premier Danielle Smith to bring greetings from the province of Alberta. Premier.
Thank you, Jalen, and good morning, everyone. I'm pleased to join Her Honor, the Honourable Selma Lakhani, Lieutenant Governor of Alberta, Brigadier General John Alexander, Commander of the 2nd Canadian Air Division, Colonel Robin Dove, Commander of the 3rd Division Support Group, Minister Tanya Furr, Minister of Arts and Culture, Justin Wright, who is the MLA for Cypress Medicine Hat, but also military liaison. I'd like to welcome everyone who's here in person, as well as all of you from across the country who are watching the live stream in your classrooms. Today is an opportunity for hundreds of students to show their gratitude and respect for the fallen soldiers who bravely gave their lives so that we could all live in a free and democratic society. Many of these soldiers were only a few years older than the students who are marking their graves today. Many of them likely had dreams and aspirations similar to those of our young people today. All of them are the reason why here in Canada we have the freedom to follow our dreams and live our lives as we choose. Today's poppy ceremony is a meaningful way to connect with the stories of these soldiers, sailors, and aviators, to remember the person beyond the uniform and to honor their selfless service while in uniform. We won't ever forget their sacrifice. We also won't forget those who fought and returned home from the war, though many carried silent scars. Veterans who went on to become parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents. I had the honor a couple of weeks ago to celebrate the 100th birthday of Captain William H. Wilson, who served Canada in the Second World War and fought bravely at the Battle of Normandy. It is a rare privilege in 2024 to be able to honor one of our Second World War heroes. But we do have the continued privilege of honoring veterans of the War of Afghanistan, peacekeeping missions, and the men and women in the Canadian Armed Forces who continue to serve our country today, including those who are serving in the Royal Canadian Air Force, which is celebrating its centennial this year. Every one of them is a hero. And I want to thank Maureen Purvis and her husband Randall for creating the No Stone Left Alone program and providing students with a meaningful way to remember Canada's fallen soldiers, sailors, and aviators and veterans to learn about and honor their service and sacrifice. To every student taking part in today's ceremony, thank you. In a peaceful country, it can be easy to forget how that peace was achieved. But you're keeping the memory of our fallen soldiers alive by recognizing and remembering their sacrifices. We will always remember, and we will always be grateful, lest we forget.
Thank you, Premier Smith. The Chief of the Defence Staff is General Jenny Carrigan. General Carrigan was commissioned into the Canadian Military Engineers in 1990. Since then, she commanded 2 combat engineer regiments and led more than 10,000 soldiers in spearheaded crisis organization or operations during the flood relief efforts in the spring of 2019 in Quebec. She led NATO Mission Iraq from November 2019 to November 2020 and participated in 3 previous expeditionary operations in Bosnia-Herzegovina, the Golan Heights, and Afghanistan. From 2021 to 2023, General Carrigan was appointed Chief of Professional Conduct and Culture. She was promoted to her current rank in July of 2024 and appointed as Chief of the Defence Staff. We will now hear a special message from General Carrigan.
Bonjour, hello everyone. I'm General Jenny Carignan, Canada's Chief of Defence Staff.
And I'm Chief Warrant Officer Bob McCann, Canadian Armed Forces Chief Warrant Officer.
We have the honor and the privilege of leading the people who serve in Canada's Navy, Army, Air Force, and Special Operations Forces. Today, we wanted to take a moment to highlight how much we appreciate the No Stone Left Alone program. À quel point nous sommes fiers d'avoir vu sa croissance tout d'abord au Canada et au cours des dernières années dans 9 autres pays. Et à quel point nous sommes reconnaissants de vos actes commémoratifs sincères et réfléchis.
This year, we've been marking 2 very important anniversaries in Canadian military history, and we're happy that No Stone Left Alone has adopted them as this year's theme. First, we are celebrating the centennial of the founding of the Royal Canadian Air Force, whose members have served and continue to serve with bold distinction and pride. The second is the 80th anniversary of D-Day, when Canadians and our allies landed on the beaches of France and fought their way through Western Europe, liberating millions of people from occupations and oppression. Many of those Canadians never made it back home and are buried in the countries they fought to liberate. It's comforting to see that their gravestones are included in the No Stones Left Alone program. L'ampleur de l'initiative nous touche et nous impressionne de même que le nombre d'élèves qui y participent chaque année. Le nombre de pays qui y tiennent des événements et le nombre de tombes visées. Cependant, ce qui nous touche davantage, c'est le fait que cette grande campagne soit constituée de plusieurs milliers de petits actes commémoratifs distincts. Each poppy laid is, to those of us in uniform, a powerful gesture for a comrade lost. We might seem like simply gesture to you, but it's very deep and meaningful to us.
All across Canada and around the world, you'll find the final resting places of more than 100,000 Canadian Armed Forces members, some of them not much older than you are. when they died. Young people who I'm sure longed for peace, but knew that sometimes you have to fight for it. Des jeunes qui comprenaient que la paix, la liberté et la démocratie, de même que le respect des droits fondamentaux de tous, exigent un engagement inconditionnel. By paying tribute to the Canadians who have died while serving our country, by reflecting on their loss with reverence and humility, we honor those Canadians and their courage. We honor their service and their sacrifice. And we do also honor the ideals for which they died, the ideals that unite us, that makes us Canadians. On behalf of everyone who serve in our Canadian Armed Forces, thank you. Merci, Miigwech, for participating in this wonderful program, lest we forget.
Thank you for that important message. Right now, I'd like to introduce Brigadier General John Alexander, Commander of 2nd Canadian Air Division of the Royal Canadian Air Force. Brigadier General Alexander enrolled in the Canadian Armed Forces in 1989. As a pilot, he has served with squadrons across the country and deployed around the world, including Bosnia, Iraq, and Northern Ireland. General Alexander, please.
Your Honor, Lieutenant Governor Lacani, Premier Smith, Chief Morin, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. 2024 marks the centenary of the Royal Canadian Air Force. And as we join to recognize Veterans Week in the lead up to Remembrance Day next Monday, I wish to take a moment to reflect on the service and sacrifice of the thousands of those who served in Canada's Air Force. On April the 1st, 1924, the Royal Canadian Air Force began with just 66 officers of what was then called the permanent and the non-permanent active Air Force, and approximately 260 non-commissioned members. Many of these members had been the survivors of the Royal Flying Corps from the First World War, serving in the nascent Canadian Air Force in the aftermath of the Great War, while doing their utmost to keep the fledgling military branch from falling under the funding reductions in the interwar years. These early Air Force members flew survey missions over uncharted parts of Canada and trialed the transcontinental flight routes for commercial purposes, becoming the pioneers in aviation. At the start of the Second World War, the RCAF numbered just 4,153 of an authorized strength of 7,260. Yet after 5 years of war, Canada and its Air Force stepped up, growing to a strength of 215,000 members, finishing the war as the fourth largest Air Force in the world. Members of the Royal Canadian Air Force served in almost every theater of war on the home front, the Atlantic, Burma, Italy, and Northwest Europe, including a major role in the invasion of Normandy, the 80th anniversary of which we recognized this past June. The Air Force also transformed the physical landscape of Canada, particularly across the prairies, with the British Commonwealth Air Training Plan. Seemingly overnight, military airfields were constructed throughout Canada to train the air crew, with the construction of which came from people from all around the world. Yet despite the dangers and the initial challenges, the RCF would go on to graduate in excess of 131,000 aircrew from across the allied nations of the British Commonwealth Air Training Plan. Sadly, over 17,000 RCF members perished during the war, and we remember them and their sacrifices during this week. We serve today by the examples they set for us. The Korean War and the dawn of the Cold War saw the RCF modernize with the advent of the jet age, flying higher and faster than ever before. Together with our closest ally and neighbor, the North American Aerospace Defense Command, or NORAD, was created to defend North America. Under the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, we contributed to European security with several squadrons deployed to France and Germany. These duties themselves were not without risk, with over 900 Air Force personnel losing their lives to training or due to operational accidents, including some from right here in Edmonton. More recently, the RCF has served in Afghanistan in strategic lift, tactical aviation, and mobile transport, and played a crucial role in the evacuation of Kabul, despite exceptionally challenging circumstances. RCF fighter, surveillance, transport, and air-to-air refueling crews also took part in the First Gulf War, Kosovo, Libya, and the war against the Islamic State, Daesh. There, they distinguished themselves in the challenging and dynamic conflict environments by demonstrating speed and flexibility, the hallmarks of modern air power. Today, the RCF is active across Canada, conducting search and rescue, maritime patrol, NORAD operations, and response to domestic emergencies such as forest fire evacuations and flood response. It is also busy around the world supporting and sustaining Canadian Armed Forces deployments, including our current missions to Latvia, delivering crucial military supplies to Ukraine, preparing for humanitarian relief in the Middle East, and patrolling the Straits of Taiwan. Today is a very challenging time for global security, but just as the early RCF members faced a similar situation 80 years ago and succeeded, we know that through teamwork, integrity, innovation, and upholding the best examples of those who wore this uniform before us, we too will be successful in the face of these challenges. Those we come here to commemorate today bore the ultimate sacrifice for their country and for peace. We must respect their memory and sacrifice and do all we can to avert another global conflict. We live in a most fortunate nation, and our contributions to this global security, to the maintenance and security of peace, must never be taken for granted, lest we forget.
Thank you, sir. We'll now hear the commitment to remember, which is being read by Hamza Mohammed from Riverbend Junior High School.
They were young, as we are young. They served, giving freely of themselves. To them, we pledge, amid the winds of time, to carry their torch and never forget. We will remember them.
We'll now see students from Holy Cross Elementary School in Holyrood, Newfoundland, reading In Flanders Fields.
In Flanders fields, the poppies glow, between the crosses row on row.
That mark our place, and in the sky, the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below.
We are the dead, short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow.
Loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields.
To take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from hated hands we throw.
The torch be yours to hold it high, if ye break faith with us who die. We shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
The next part of our ceremony will be familiar to many of you, though some of the students watching today may not know why we observe these traditions and on Remembrance Day. We will hear a military bugler play the last post. It traditionally signals the end of the day and serves as a tribute to the dead. We will hear a signal to mark the beginning of 2 minutes of silence, a time to reflect, and a sign of respect for those at home and abroad who have served in times of war. The silence will be broken by the playing of the lament to commemorate Highland regiments, and finally, the bugler one more time, playing the rouse to signify waking up to a new day and the resurrection of the spirit of the fallen. We now ask those of you watching and in attendance at Beechmount to please rise as we start these events with Captain Robert Langmaid and the reflection of remembrance.
Attention!
We have gathered today to honor the service and sacrifice of Canada's military through personal acts of remembrance and gratitude. Let us reflect and give thanks for all who have labored for liberty, justice, and peace, for those who have given themselves in defense of freedom, mercy, and good faith among the nations, and for those who in life and death have protected our lives through their sacrifices. We have prospered. As we hold the dead in continual remembrance, may we walk with clean hearts, determined wills, and great hope. And let us preserve the peace and fairness they defended, and help us persevere the peace. We reflect on this with hope and trust in mercy and grace, lest we forget.
Hello, I'm Warrant Officer 2nd Class Nagtalon from 573 Andrew Minarski Victoria Cross Royal Canadian Air Cadet Squadron. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we shall remember them.
And thank you, Cadet Warrant Officer 2nd Class Haley Nagtalon from the 573 Andrew Minarski VC Royal Canadian Air Cadet Squadron. That was the act of remembrance. The laying of wreaths is an important part of a remembrance ceremony. We note a number of wreaths have already been laid for several organizations. We're going to start with our wreath laying ceremony now, and we'd invite Her Honor, Lieutenant Governor Selma Lakhani, to lay a wreath on behalf of the King.
Stand up. Easy. Stand easy.
We now invite Premier Smith to lay a wreath on behalf of the province of Alberta. I'd like to invite Chief Billy Moran to place a wreath on behalf of Treaty 6 nations. I'd now call Colonel Robin Dove, commander of the 3rd Canadian Division Support Group, to lay a wreath on behalf of the Canadian Armed Forces. Laying a wreath commemorating the 80th anniversary of D-Day is Mac Torrey of Kingsway Legion Branch 175. Brigadier General John Alexander is invited to lay the next wreath commemorating the 100th anniversary of the Royal Canadian Air Force. And finally, Maureen Bianchini Purvis and her grandson Hudson Yates will place the wreath on behalf of No Stone Left Alone. Now that all the wreaths have been laid, all of our dignitaries are invited to join the students in the field of honor as they begin placing poppies. Today, we have students from Annunciation Catholic Elementary, St. Mary's School, Centennial Elementary, St. Bernadette Catholic Elementary, Riverbend Junior High, and the 203 Sherwood Park Scouts. Please take the time to speak with them, to talk with them, how they feel about participating today, and share with them your own connection to remembrance. We invite everyone here today, guests, serving members, and families, to join the students in the field of honor and take some time to speak aloud the names of those we are here to remember. While we are placing poppies, we will hear the Canadian Military Wives Choir of Edmonton performing On Guard, composed by Neil Laidlaw, followed by We'll Remember Them by Edmonton composer Aaron Craig. We will then hear Edmonton musician Rebecca Lapa performing her song, No Stone Left Alone. I'd like to take a moment to thank each and every one of you who joined us in person, online, in school, wherever you're joining us from today. I hope each of you take time during Veterans Week to thank a living veteran or serving member and to visit a cemetery in your own community to honor the veterans there. And please make sure to let us at No Stone Left Alone know about your experience. Together, we will remember them.
Standing still in silence on a cold November day, a parade of veterans marches past, and it carries me away to a time oh so long ago when these soldiers went to war. Only then their numbers were more. When the flags came into sight, there rose a mighty roar, for those
As summer breathes last and the leaves begin to change, I think of loved ones who have gone and the ones that still remain. Look up to the sky and the wind whispering to say there will be no stone left alone. Of all the kin that passed, there are many I hold dear, but the ones who took up arms come to mind this time of year. Our servicemen and women whose sacrifice made clear there will be no stone left alone. I see my grandpa flying high as he forged on through the sky, and my uncle who came back without his mind. And though I feel blessed, there's grief weighing on my chest. There will be no stone left alone. Underneath the blood and dirt, I see how young they must have been. Outwardly they're strong, but inside they're trembling. The world's history etched into their skin. There will be no stone left alone. I see my grandpa flying high as he forged on through the sky, and my sister who came back without a limb. And though I feel blessed, there's grief weighing on my chest. There will be no stone left alone. I walk into the cemetery, everyone is here again. The children clean the headstones, the old tell stories about the names. I lay my puppy down and the others do the same. There will be no stone left alone. I see my grandpa flying high as he forged on through the sky, and my brother who came back without a friend. And though I feel blessed, there's grief weighing on my chest. There will be no stone left alone. I lay my puppy down and the others do the same. We won't stop till there's no stone left alone.